Say good evening to each and every one of you for joining us for our Clearlake Community Coffee. My name is Mike McGuire. I'm honored to be able to work on behalf of Lake County each and every day in the state Senate. We are joined with an amazing panel tonight. Of course, we have Supervisor Sabatier. You know him really well. He's done an amazing job. Clearlake City Council is now on the Board of Supervisors. He's going to be giving us a full briefing on behalf of the county. We have, of course, Mayor Kramer, who's going to be with us this evening. Thank you so much, Mayor. We're hoping to be able to see the mayor's cat as we did yesterday. We'll be making an appearance, which is
may.
Hey, there we go. Dr. Pace is with us here this evening. Dr. Pace is, of course, the Lake County Public Health Officer. We're looking forward to being able to get his coronavirus briefing. And we are so appreciative that Chief White from the Clearlake Police Department is with us. He is coming to us live from the road. So we appreciate, Chief White, you being with us this evening as well. Hey, as we get started here and folks continue to join us, we want to remind you that there are going to be 3 ways that you can communicate with us tonight. Number 1, if you are on Zoom, you can just simply turn on your camera and raise your hand and we'll call on you. This is going to be a collaborative conversation here tonight. 2, we're going to ask if you want to be able to ask a question and you don't want to ask it directly, you can put your questions into the chat, which is right below the screen right there. Just hit us up in the chat and we'll ask the question from there. In addition, if you are on the phone tonight, and we have several folks who are now on the phone, we got about 15 folks on the phone, you can hit us up via email, senator.mcguire@senate.ca.gov. If you're on the phone this evening, feel free to email us your questions and comments, senator.mcguire@senate.ca.gov. And again, we are so appreciative, all of you joining us, and also understand, as the mayor has said, there may be a small debate happening tonight. So we appreciate you joining us this evening for our Clearlake Community Coffee. Again, my name is Mike McGuire, and I'm really honored to be able to represent Lake County in the state Senate. And we are so incredibly grateful for you taking the time on such a busy evening to be able to join us for this collaborative conversation about the County of Lake and the city of Clear Lake as well. And let's face it, times are incredibly tough. They're incredibly tough across the nation, here in the Golden State, and right here at home in Lake County. We're facing down historic wildfires, a global pandemic, and a pandemic-induced recession, all at the same time. And this triple whammy of a disaster is coming on the heels of multiple wildland fires that have impacted this great county. That said, I am still a firm believer. That we're going to get through this. And there is nowhere else that I'd rather call home than Northern California. And I have to say, since 2015 and what we went through with the Valley Fire, the Rocky, and the Jerusalem, especially when the times are the toughest, Lake County truly shines. And tonight, again, we're coming together to be able to have a collaborative conversation this evening, to be able to talk about the important issues facing the city of Clear Lake, the county of Lake, and where we're at with the coronavirus. And we are so excited that you are with us. Again, if you'd like to be able to communicate, please, if you're on Zoom, turn on your camera, simply raise your hand. You can put your questions, your comments, your criticisms in the chat box, which is right beneath the screen. Or if you are on the phone this evening, want to remind you, feel free to hit us up via email, senator.mcguire@senate.ca.gov. All right, I think it's time just to get into it. And again, we want to welcome Supervisor Sabatier to the community coffee. And I want to just take a moment to say thank you to the supervisor. The supervisor is active. He's engaged. He's engaged both here locally. He's fighting for Lake County on the statewide level to be able to secure funds for homelessness, to be able to secure funds, to be able to clean up the water quality in Clear Lake. And I just want to say I am so appreciative to be able to work with you each and every day, Supervisor. We're going to turn the floor over to the supervisor to be able to give us a full county briefing. He has 3 minutes. And then we'll go to Dr. Pace. Mr. Supervisor, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Senator McGuire, for putting this together. Thank you for everyone joining us today. As Senator McGuire already mentioned, these are unprecedented times. We thought PSPS and wildfires were already difficult. We already thought before that it was difficult to move the dial here in Lake County as it was. but now you add on COVID-19 and it just becomes that much bigger of a challenge. And in order to attack any of these challenges, it's all about economics. You have to be able to find the funds, whether through the state or whether locally, to be able to take on this challenge and be able to move forward. And locally is where I focus a whole lot of where it is that we need to move the dial, because we cannot continuously depend on the state or the federal government forever. It's kind of them that they are there to support us, but we have to find ways to do things on our own. So there's a few things that we have done that I want to discuss and some things that we are going to do. Let's talk first about the fires. We've all seen the maps. We've all seen the previous fires from, let's say, 2015 all the way to 2020, even though we've had fires before 2015. But those are some of the most challenging fires that we've had to deal with here in Lake County. When you look at the maps, you can see which areas have not burned. It's time for us to start focusing on those areas that have not burned. We need to make sure that those places are safe, especially if there's a high population, or especially if there's a lot of hazardous vegetation that's still left over in those areas, because those can lead to fires going into our populations. So that is something that you will be seeing coming to the Board of Supervisors for a discussion. How do we attack those areas that have not yet burned so that we can ensure that we do not see a future fire that threatens our communities? That is number one. Number two is, again, we need to have the finances to be able to take care of any of these challenges. Thinking of ideas and solutions doesn't just make things happen. You have to put some funds behind it to make it happen. We've been really fortunate with this county that we've moved forward with cannabis. Cannabis in the past couple of years has given us maybe about $500,000 in cannabis taxes. This year alone, we're looking at $6 million in cannabis taxes locally. We make about $3.2 million just in sales tax annually. We are almost doubling that in a single year on our third year of cultivating cannabis here. Now that comes with the good. Obviously we get the funds, but it also comes with the bad. And the bad is we have to clean up some of the things that we've created. We have some bad actors that we're learning are bad actors. We're working our way through those and we're cleaning that up. And we also have some structural issues that we're finding out as we're creating a new industry in our county, and we're doing our best to clean that up as well. Those are things you will be seeing here as well. Coming to the Board of Supervisors. Housing is important. We've lost a lot of houses. Every year we seem to lose more with each and every single one of these fires that comes through. I've been fortunate enough to meet with a lot of housing developers, but it's still very, very difficult to be able to pencil out new subdivisions or just new large amounts of new construction when the property values are so low. This is a challenge that I've failed yet to overcome, but I'm still working on this. I know we are working with Senator McGuire in the city of Clearlake to make some of that happen, and we hope to see some movement on that coming soon. Broadband. Broadband is a really important subject right now. We're on Zoom. We are using the internet. Everybody that goes to school, other than in a couple school districts around the county, are using the internet every single day just to be in class, and some folks as well to go to work. We are the first county to pass a master broadband plan for adding more and enhancing our broadband internet in the county. I'm having conversations right now with the Upstate California Connect Consortium, as well as with RCRC, to figure out how do we get the funds and how do we get our ISPs to work with us so that we can deploy a better and larger broadband access to our communities. It is important, and it is a part of economic development, not just an answer to COVID-19. Our last one, if I can. Please. Our economic development is so important to the county that we are now creating an ad hoc committee, and I'm hoping that soon this ad hoc committee will come back to us within the next 6 months with a strategic plan. Without a plan, it is hard to find people who want to invest in us. This plan will change the future of Lake County, and I look forward to that. Those are all things we've been working on and things that we need to continue doing.
Thank you so much. That's Supervisor Sabatier representing the city of Clearlake, and of course, greater region around the city of Clearlake. We're now going to be turning over the town hall to Dr. Gary Pace. And I want to acknowledge Dr. Pace. He has taken on one of the biggest challenges that we have seen in over a century, and that is this pandemic. He's been working through this pandemic thick and thin from the very beginning. Dr. Pace, I want to say thank you for your fantastic commitment to the public's health here in Lake County. The floor is yours. You have 3 minutes, and I know you have a lot to cover. Dr. Pace, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you, Senator McGuire, and it's a privilege to be on this panel talking tonight. And good evening to everybody out in the audience. Yeah, it's been quite a ride here. We've been in this pandemic now for about 7 months, and we've had almost 600 cases in the county, and 12 people unfortunately have passed away at this point. It's had a big economic toll. The kids aren't in school now in the same way. Our social lives are really disrupted. It's been a real struggle for folks. And unfortunately, I think we still have some more time to go with it, where it's not immediately, there's no endpoint immediately obvious at this point. We did have a surge a couple weeks ago that caused a bunch of cases caused our number of cases to rise, but that seems to be improving now. It's on the way back down. In terms of these tiers, the state has worked out this system where we can have some local control and open and close the businesses based on what the case rate is and what the prevalence is in the community. I think it's a pretty good system. It's based on data, and it really gives us the ability to manage our directions a little bit within the parameters that the state has set out. We are on the red tier now, which is the second most restrictive tier, which is where we've been for probably about 10 weeks at this point. Some businesses can be open. There can be some indoor activity, even in the higher risk businesses like restaurants and things. And we really want to keep that going. We'd really like to move towards the orange tier now, which is the next one. And we're going to start talking a lot about that in the future. The trajectory, I think, really is likely in the next 3 or 4 months over winter. It's going to be harder. We've got the flu season coming up, and people are going to be inside more. So I suspect we're going to have some issues going on in the coming months. And then probably, late winter, early spring, things are going to start turning around. We're going to start having some vaccines available, and things are probably going to start moving more towards normal next summer. We do have I want to say the flu vaccine is really important to get. The COVID vaccine is still in the future, but the flu vaccine is available now. Strongly recommended to get it. We have a big flu clinic this coming Saturday, the 10th, from 10 to 1, I believe, at the fairgrounds with the Heroes of Healthcare. It's free. It's drive-through. Really recommend doing it. We're also trying to get some community activities going, and Chief White, Supervisor Sabate are both working on some Halloween activities for the kids that will be safe and that can be done, really encouraging people to try to do these in a safe way. Trick-or-treating is probably not the best idea, but doing some of these organized activities that are set up in a safe way are a good idea. So overall, I think in conclusion, just want to say we recognize this has been a real struggle. We really appreciate the efforts people have been doing, masking, social distancing, avoiding gatherings. It really helps. That's really what slows the transmission. Lake County has done really well. We've done a lot better than the surrounding counties in terms of the number of cases and the number of deaths, and we hope to keep going. And by next spring, we should really see some significant return back towards normal. So thank you.
Thank you so much. That's Dr. Pace, Public Health Officer for the County of Lake. Dr. Pace, one more time, remind us when the big flu shot drive-through is going to be this Saturday. One more time, please.
Right. So it's Saturday the 10th. It's the Heroes of Healthcare at the Lake County Fairgrounds, 10 to 1. It's a drive-through, so you don't have to get out of your car and worry about all that, and it's free. So it's a great place to get your vaccine for the flu.
Thank you so much. We're going to hear more from Dr. Pace. A lot of questions coming in right now for Dr. Pace related to the pandemic. So we're going to be getting to those questions in just a bit. We have about 40 questions that were previously submitted that we'll be sprinkling in throughout the evening. But before we do, we now would like to be able to turn the town hall over to Mayor Kramer. I want to say thank you to Mayor Kramer. I want to say thank you to the City Council, and I want to say thank you to City Manager Alan Flora. They have been amazing partners in establishing this community coffee here today. We couldn't have done it without them. Mayor Kramer, thanks for your incredible commitment, not just now on behalf of the City of Clearlake, but going through some of the largest disasters that the state has seen, let alone Lake County. You have been so solid. Mayor Kramer, the floor is yours for your 3-minute update.
Thank you, Senator McGuire. We appreciate all that you do for us and appreciate that partnership as well. There's many things that have been happening in the city of Clearlake, our Austin Park redevelopment. the 18th Avenue project, which hopefully you'll speak about a little more, and the Hope Center and the large $3.3 million injection of cash that you helped with. But what I want to talk about tonight, there's 4 different subjects that are really, I feel that are very important. Roads, the first thing. We've had, of course, our roads in Clearlake over the last 40 years have deteriorated a lot. We voted in 3 years ago our Measure V, we call it, which is a sales tax, which is devoted just to roads. And it's already made a large impact in repaving of streets in several areas. Next spring, we have planned Acacia, Alveda, Goff, and Howard streets. We're working on Mullen and right at the moment. Hopefully it'll be done soon. But we also have a huge project coming up next spring with the settlement we've had recently with PG&E for sulfur fire damage. We're able to devote probably something in north of $10 million to the repaving of Lakeshore Drive from Olympic Drive clear out to the end of the city limits at Oak Drive. And in addition, there'll be, I think, 13 side streets that are also included in that, and all of San Joaquin. It's going to be a great project. A lot of people have been looking for those streets to be fixed for, quite frankly, going back to well before the fire of the sulfur fire. So that's something we're really excited about. This year we tried something new out in the avenues with some of our dirt streets. We did a chip sealing project on, I think, 4 streets out off of 18th Avenue. They've turned out really well. So we're looking possibly to do 3 to 5 miles more of that this next year, again, mostly in the avenues. And then finally, because of Measure V funds, we've been slowly re-equipping and getting our crews up so that we can start doing the regular maintenance, potholing and crack sealing, et cetera. So really looking forward to our roads improving after all these years. It's coming along slowly. Everybody wants it done immediately, but it is going to happen. Secondly, housing. This is one specific project. Our council this last meeting approved the use of $1 million from our Series B. Those are former redevelopment agency funds for housing to incentivize new construction of market rate housing for entry-level executive type position or professional type positions. The city will, in this program, the city will provide either a city-owned lot or up to $10,000 for the purchase of a lot within the city, of course, plus cover fees, city permit fees, plus water and sewer hookup, school fees, and fire department fees. And all, we think that's going to be an approximate value of about $40,000. This will apply to either stick-built or qualified new manufactured homes. The applicant must live in the home for a minimum of 2 years. This kind of goes to what Supervisor Sabatier said just a few minutes ago about our area not being able to compete to get new construction because of the cost of housing and our relatively low real estate market. We're hoping that this will jumpstart us and get us going. Economic development is a third topic I wanted to cover, specifically our airport project. The city has decided to become a lot more proactive in this. We're going to do some of the infrastructure ourselves. We're changing our emphasis, I think, to more local and regional type businesses for this shopping center. Right now, we actually have one letter of intent from a developer for a 75-room hotel that'll be connected to a national chain, which will have, we expect to have a small convention center and restaurant. That's looked to be sited on the north end of the old runway with a view out over the lake.
We got about 30 seconds, Mayor. Sorry.
Okay. And the last thing is our lawsuit over the tax collector failure, which is hurting our entire county. We've got properties going back over 40 years, that, which is beyond the age of the city. And we simply cannot continue to allow these auctions not to be held. So we were forced to file suit against the tax collector's office. And we'll hope to get a better outcome in the very near future. So that's my Reader's Digest version. If there are questions about any of these things, I'll certainly be glad to answer them.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Mayor Kramer, City of Clearlake, we are very grateful. We got a lot of questions coming in, questions about streets here this evening, about potential development as well. And the mayor will be ready to go to be able to answer those questions in just a few moments. But before we do, we want to remind you, if you have questions this evening and you're on the phone, we are getting emails coming in. If you're on the phone, you can submit your question right now to senator.mcguire@senate.ca.gov, senator.mcguire@senate.ca.gov. We have questions coming in via the chat as well, and we'll also be looking to you just to turn on your cameras. And if you'd like to be able to ask any questions, we'll welcome you in just a few moments. But before we do, we would like to be able to bring in a full briefing from the Clearlake Police Department. To be able to do that, we have Chief Andrew White. Chief White has been working so incredibly hard on behalf of this community to be able to keep us safe. We're going to turn the floor over to Chief White for a 3-minute update on all issues from the police department. Chief White, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Senator, and thank you for having us on tonight. I'd first like to talk just briefly. Obviously, COVID-19 has affected everybody, including the police department. We've had to adjust some of our service delivery. We've implemented some new technologies to continue serving the community. But most importantly, we continue to respond to the different calls that are required within the community. And in fact, this year to date, compared to last year, we've seen a 25% increase in calls for service, still dealing with roughly the same number of personnel. So that's a challenge for us. We've also had to adjust our training. Obviously, training is very important for our department. More recently, we've had to adapt to some online training environments, just like every other business is having to adapt to. We're also leveraging new technologies like a virtual reality for some empathy training and other types of stuff. On the crime trend front, this year we continue to see double-digit decreases in crime. This year to date, we're roughly about 14 to 15% down from last year in terms of serious crime. We still are seeing some areas that we want to work on. One area in particular are stolen vehicles, and we'll be making an announcement soon regarding some technology that we'll be leveraging for that. The other area is code enforcement. That's very important for us in terms of making the city a cleaner and safer city. This year, we've really been trying to roll out our vacant commercial building ordinance, which we've already seen some buildings turn over. Obviously, COVID has impacted that, but we continue to see some good success there. We continue to increase our caseload in code enforcement to clean up the city, particularly with regards to fire danger. So this year, we've had over 1,200 vegetation cases. Last year was about 700. And we continue to work closely with the fire department, both on this area, but also too on responding to fires and implementing joint command. We have a brand new animal control facility that we will be opening here soon. So we're really excited about that. That's an area that's languished within the city for a long time. Another big project we've been working on is the Gobi Desert area, which has long been a site of blight, abandoned vehicles, et cetera. And the senator's been involved with us really from when I started here in terms of abating all these vehicles throughout the city. And we're seeing good results there. The last thing is community engagement. Even though we have COVID and everything else going on, we really count on the community to support us. That's what makes us successful. And so we're continuing our efforts. Dr. Pace mentioned earlier, we'll be doing a Halloween delivery of candy. We have close to 1,000 kids signed up. And a shout out to all the donors who donated candy, and then my wife who's been busy packing bags for the last few weeks. In closing, I just wanted to reassure everybody within the community, there's a lot of discussion in addition to everything else going on about police accountability and changes and stuff. I just want you to know that we are a very progressive organization. We're ahead of a lot of this stuff, but also cognizant as the arena changes. But rest assured, we're prepared to move forward and continue to serve you professionally and with respect. That, thank you.
Chief White, nice job. Thank you so much. Chief White is going to be with us for the evening, answering your questions and comments. And this is the most important part of this evening. is turning it over to you. We're going to look for your questions, your comments, of course, your criticisms, to be able to have that collaborative conversation. We are so grateful that we have Mayor Kramer with us, Supervisor Sabatier, Dr. Pace, the Public Health Officer, and Police Chief Andrew White. Let's get right into the questions. A reminder, if you're on the phone, the way to submit your question, senator.mcguire@senate.ca.gov. Here we go. Let's get right into it. We're going to go, first question is coming in from Kathy. This is going to go to Dr. Pace. Dr. Pace, this is in regards to maintaining public health protocols as we continue to open up. Here's what Kathy asks. Besides fines, what other methods can be used to hold businesses and customers accountable for maintaining public health protocols? Dr. Pace, that's been a challenge all throughout the state and the country. Talk to us about what tools the county has to be able to maintain those public health protocols.
Right. Well, thank you for the question. That has been a big challenge all around the state. And we have been working on this. The current protocol is if somebody lets us know at the health department that there's a concerning situation, we reach out and try to educate them and make sure they understand what the guidelines are and make sure that any obstacles are out of the way. And then if that doesn't really work, we'll try again. If that doesn't really work, then the agreement is we'll kick it up to the supervisor of that region and then they'll contact them. At this point, the city does have an ordinance in place and they can come out and do some enforcement. And they were doing some of that at various times during it, but of course there's staffing issues and other kinds of concerns that go on with that. At the county level, an ordinance did pass that the Board of Supervisors put forth about a month ago, but there's been some work from a citizen based referendum trying to get us to not be able to enforce that. There's a bunch of signatures got submitted. They're in the verification phase of that, so everything's on hold while we're figuring that out. So a lot of different parts to that, but at this point, we're trying to work mainly with education and trying to get people on board, and the vast majority of people and businesses are complying.
That's Dr. Pace, Public Health Officer, County of Lake. We're now going to go to Mayor Kramer. Mayor Kramer, this next question is going to be about roads. This question has been submitted via email from Lori. Lori asked Mayor Kramer this: I'd like to know more about the road projects on Palmer and Pearl roads. It would be great / informative to have the newsletters back on the clerk's website that Greg Folsom started. And I'd also like the schedule going out 1 to 2 years on future-specific road improvement projects. So, Mayor Kramer, talk to us about the road projects planned on Palmer and Pearl roads. Also, if you don't mind, talk about how you do future planning and how to be able to let the public know 12 months, 24 months in advance on where you're going with the road improvement projects. Mayor Kramer.
Okay, well, we do have a 3 to 5 year plan, but specific projects will depend, of course, on the amount of tax revenue that we get in the prior year to fund those. This year, like I said, the planned Measure V projects for next year are on Acacia, which is out in front of Pomo School, Alveda, Golf, and Howard. I gonna have to get back to you on Palmer, but if you'll give Senator McGuire your contact information, I'll be glad to get back to you as soon as I can with that information, specifically on Palmer. We do look at future projects based on relative condition of the streets and how busily traveled they are. We initially started with a 5-year schedule of streets, and they've gotten changed up a little bit as we go, as conditions change. But that's basically what we're looking at. And again, Lori, if you'll give Senator McGuire your contact information, I will get you the exact information on Palmer, where we're at on that.
That's great. We're going to have the email, Lori's email, sent over to Mayor Kramer. We'll make sure that they connect. Thank you so much, Mayor Kramer. Mayor Kramer, we're going to stick with you. popular issue of the night, roads. And by the way, Mayor Kramer said the most popular issue of the tonight, roads. So the man knows the community. So here we go. This next question is coming in from Helen. Helen asks, when will there be bike lanes on Lakeshore Drive and the other roads as they are repaved? Mayor Kramer.
Well, we are actually looking at the Lakeshore Corridor plan coming up. In fact, we're also this next week we'll be meeting with our downtown businesses to talk about all of those things. Lakeshore's a little bit of a tricky deal because it's not, it's not really that wide. So we're going to have to look to those places where we can actually have bike lanes, and that'll be part of that process too. We'll be working with Chief White to see where the safety issues are and where they're needed the most. So that downtown corridor project is being reviewed at this point.
And so, Mayor Kramer, would it be fair to say, as part of that discussion of the downtown project, bike lanes will be discussed as part of that?
I think it would be fair to say that, yes.
All right. No, thank you so much. That's Mayor Kramer. Chief White, did you want to jump in on this?
No, I think he addressed it. I think all that stuff's being studied. And obviously we'll look as it goes through. The challenge is, of course, the width there. But I know bike lanes are being looked at, not just there, but at other places, as well as road grade separated one, particularly the Dam Road extension. I know they're looking at there because all the kids, when they go back into school, right now there's not a, it's just right next to the roadway. So we're looking.
Yeah, we're actually looking at sidewalks and bike lanes there.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Chief White. Thank you, Mayor Kramer. We're going to be going back to Dr. Pace, the public health officer for the County of Lake. This is coming in from Ronald. Ronald has a question about antibody testing. He asks this, Dr. Pace, does Dr. Pace know what is going on with the antibody cure that a doctor in San Diego talked about back in March or April? He said that it would be available earliest in September. So, Dr. Pace, what do you know about the antibody cure that was discussed early on in the pandemic?
Well, I assume what he's talking about is the monoclonal antibody treatment, which is where they take plasma from people who have recovered from the COVID, and then they sort of pull out the parts that fight the infection. They clone it, and then they get a big thing. So it's not ready for prime time yet. I kind of think that's part of what President Trump may have got when they talked about that immune cocktail that he might have gotten. But it's supposed to be, it's hard to do this. It's a pretty high-tech thing, but it looks like it's probably going to be ready in the coming months. So how widely available it'll be is going to be a big question. We're not seeing it used around here at this point, that's for sure. But it does, from my understanding, is the technology is, we're making some progress, and probably, within the coming months, in the next few months, it's going to be starting to be used somewhat, probably more in the kind of tertiary care centers like down in San Francisco, but it's out there, it's coming.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Pace. This is a question that is coming from Adrian. When are we going to receive our ballots? So we can answer that quickly. You should start seeing your ballots hitting your mailboxes this week. So mailed on Monday across the state. This is going to be an all vote by mail ballot that you're going to receive automatically from your local registrar of voter and the Secretary of State. Here's the good news. You don't need to put a first class stamp. When you return your ballots in your envelopes, it's prepaid postage. Just put it into the mailbox. You can drop it off at the registrar of voters with the County of Lake as well. But you just need to pop it in the mailbox and it will be mailed automatically. The state is covering the cost of that postage. So it's really simple on that. Supervisor Sabatier, on issues of voting, I'll turn it over to you.
Just wanted to add, there's also drop boxes that have been added to each one of our libraries, one in the city of Clearlake as well, as at the courthouse. Everything is available to you till the very last moment at 8 p.m. on November 3rd.
Really good. At all libraries, including, you just said, including Clearlake, correct? Thank you so much, Supervisor Sabatier. All right, this next question is coming in from Sarah. Sarah emails in, to become a member, how many seats will become open on the Clearlake City Council? We're going to Mayor Kramer here. What are the pay and benefits of a council member? Mayor Kramer.
Well, there are 3 seats that are up for re-election or election this November. 2 years from now, there'll be 2 seats up. They rotate back and forth. So we don't have, all 5 council members that are up for election at the same time. We are now making $300 a month, and we do get something of a healthcare benefit. Not a great deal, but it's helpful. That $300 a month will increase to $500 a month starting January.
Thank you so much, Mayor Kramer of City of Clearlake. We appreciate that. Thanks, Sarah, for the question. We're now going to turn it over to Dr. Pace. Dr. Pace, question coming in from Martha. She put it into the chat. Where can seniors get a flu vaccine? Nobody seems to have it available. Dr. Pace.
Oh, well, you should be able to get it from your medical provider. Most of the pharmacies have them, and this flu clinic coming up this Saturday would be a good place to get it as well. So if there's a problem, if she's having a problem getting the flu vaccine for some reason, please contact us at Public Health, and we'll figure out what the problem is and help you get connected in. So yeah, we definitely want the seniors to get flu vaccine. And if for some reason you're having trouble finding it or connecting with it, let us know and we'll help you get it.
Thank you so much. That's Dr. Pace, Public Health Officer for the County of Lake. Doctor, we're going to stick with you. Melanie writes in, Dr. Pace, congratulations on the successful pear harvest with minimal COVID impact based on your collaboration with the farmers and packing sheds. Melanie asks you to please share highlights in how you are using the pear harvest experience to support the wine grape harvest, Dr. Pace.
Wow. Well, so yeah, we are very excited about how the pear harvest went. This was a worrisome situation with a lot of migrant workers coming up from the Central Valley, with a lot of congregate people living together in congregate living situations, and also a big indoor packing shed where there was the risk for a real outbreak. And we had been meeting regularly with some of the growers and some of the ag community around this. And then we started meeting with some advocates for the farm worker community as well before the season started. And I think a lot of the preparations that these folks very willingly and collaboratively put in place were what made the difference. The agricultural community was very forward thinking and did a lot of screening. And whenever there was any concerning situations, we were on the phone quickly together. And so just working together and dealing with things in real time was very, very effective. We're in the process of having similar discussions with the winery association and with the vineyards. We've had some really good luck with the vineyards and with working with some of the farm worker groups. You know, the thing is the outdoor work isn't nearly as concerning as the indoor work. And so folks working outside and picking grapes isn't as concerning as being inside doing the crush and doing some of that work. And so being really, a lot of it's about preparation and then dealing in real time with situations as they pop up and sort of to try to contain any sort of transmission. But thanks, that's a great question.
Thank you so much, Dr. Pace. We're grateful. We're now going to turn to each of you who are on the line and on Zoom to see if there's anyone who would like to be able to ask a question here directly on Zoom. If you'd like to, we're going to ask you to be able to turn on your camera. I know that all of us are having Zoom fatigue, but if anyone, I'm just going to go through the 2 galleries, see if there's anyone who would like to be able to ask a question in person. Otherwise, we have plenty of questions, a couple of actually 40 questions that have been submitted here via email. Let's see if anyone has any questions here in person. Seeing and hearing none, we're now going to turn it over to Supervisor Sabatier. Willow writes in, what's the latest on the former Canocti Resort? Supervisor.
So there is some activity already happening. As some may know, they've already opened a boat gas station, as well as opening up their restaurant. As far as the rest, I know they were struggling with some PG&E transmission lines. They were working on that. The reason I was aware of that is because we were looking at them for using them as a facility for COVID-19 isolation patients. And there seemed to be some challenges that we weren't able to overcome as quickly as we wanted to, so we moved on to a different site. But they are still moving forward. I know that we've probably heard again and again, it's going to happen in winter, it's going to happen in spring, it's going to happen in summer. Just know progress is happening, and that we do anticipate them to open. I do not have a date for you. I can definitely check in with Supervisor Brown or check in with Russ Hamill, who's over there at the resort, and let you know a more specific time frame, but there is progress.
All right, that's Supervisor Sabatier talking about the progress that's been made on the former Canocti Resort. We're now going to turn it over to Mr. Kramer, the mayor of City of Clear Lake. Mr. Kramer, another question on roads for you, sir. This time it's coming in from Carrie. Carrie asked this: why has the city not recognized the dirt streets between Austin Avenue, Highway 53, Duncan Avenue, and Olympic? So not recognizing the streets between Austin Avenue, Highway 53, Duncan Avenue, and Olympic. The floor is yours, Mr. Mayor.
Does she mean not recognizing them as public streets, or not recognizing their need for repair?
What she says is we can't get the city or county to respond to our dilemma about washed out roads, fire hydrants that have been tested, and people speeding all the time because it's a direct route between town and the avenues.
Okay. Well, I don't have an answer for you. I know that we are continually reviewing the streets for the need for repaving and or chip seal projects. As far as the potholing and chip sealing or grading, if you have a specific problem, the first thing you need to do is go to City Hall and fill out a request for service. And if you aren't getting what you need from that request for service and time, please do email me directly and I'll intercede. But the first step for you is to complete the request for service, if I'm understanding your question correctly. I think Chief White can probably better answer the question on the speeding on the street. As far as the fire hydrants go, those come under the jurisdiction of Lake County Fire Protection District.
And before we go to Chief White to talk about the speeding, Mayor Kramer, I know this has been a top priority of yours and the council of really hunkering down and getting the streets improved. Let's just be honest, it's been a long time, and this council has been hyper-focused on moving forward with the tax dollars and getting them spent. Talk to us a little bit about that before we go to Chief White, because I think it's important.
Well, you're absolutely right. This city is 40 years old this year. And quite frankly, the city incorporated originally, I understand, because they weren't satisfied with how the county was working with them on many things, and streets and roads were one of them. Unfortunately, what they didn't take into account was the revenues that it takes to do all those things. And when you're starting up from nothing, it's really difficult. And the city struggled with revenue and lack of revenue for many, many, many years. So consequently, we've had a continuous deterioration of streets over a very extended length of time. And now we are doing our best to go back and correct the streets as quickly as we can. But you've got to understand that with, I think, over how many miles and miles of streets, both paved and unpaved, that we have, it's not going to happen overnight. But rest assured that we are focused on it and we are improving them a little bit at a time. The chip sealing project, for instance, is something we undertook as rather than continuing to grade these streets. We learned early on, or we've learned that grading them every year doesn't make any sense. It doesn't improve them. they're just as bad the following year as they were before. So we're looking for something that was more permanent, that was still affordable. Chip sealing, we think is going to be really successful at that, rather than having to regrade them every year. We're hoping for a 5 to maybe even 10-year life on those chip seals. But it will take time to get to the streets. Again, we are trying to prioritize the streets based on their use and on the level of deterioration that they have. So hopefully we'll try to be a little patient with us, but we are definitely focused on it.
No, 100%. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. We're going to go to Chief White, talking about the speeding that was mentioned by Carrie. Chief, do you want to chime in on this?
Yeah, so briefly, if there are areas that need extra speed enforcement, just reach out, contact us. You can let us know days, times, that sort of thing is helpful. This last year, we did have deployed for the entire year our traffic enforcement unit. So they do address those issues. And I can tell you numerically, the citations have gone up quite a bit in the last year. But again, just reach out with a specific street. In terms of some of the private streets, those do present a challenge in terms of some enforcement efforts. Although on the flip side of roads improving, one of the complaints that I do get is as the roads get better, you get people driving faster on them. So I guess everything's a catch-22.
No, thank you so much. Yeah, Chief White, please, real quick.
And just to follow up on, Chief White mentioned the private streets. That's the other thing that folks don't realize, that there are a number of private streets within the city, and the city does not provide maintenance for those streets. They're private.
Thank you so much, Mayor Kramer. Chief White, we're going to stick with you. Connor writes in tonight. He missed he cut the last bit of your update on animal control and wants an update on animal control in the city of Clearlake. Chief White.
Sure. So our brand new animal control facility, which really consists of 3 different buildings, 2 dedicated kennel buildings that are purpose-built, as well as an office. They're just finishing up the final tidbits of construction. In fact, they're putting new trees out there today. That's a huge improvement for us. The other area in terms of animal controls, we do get monthly updates to the council. And I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but I think we're somewhere in the low 90s in terms of a release rate or live release rate, which is something we're really proud of. The numbers would actually qualify us as a no-kill shelter. So again, a lot of work in that area, and we're also appreciative for all the volunteers.
Thank you so much. Update on animal control, animal care control within the city of Clearlake. We're going to now turn it over to Dr. Pace and Supervisor Sabatier. We'll go to Dr. Pace first, and then we'll turn it over to Supervisor Sabatier, because I know this is an issue that the board has talked about, and this has to do with fishing tournaments. So Jamie writes in tonight, is it really safe for our small community to have fishing tournaments at this time, bringing in people from all over? Dr. Pace, and then we'll let the good supervisor chime in on this as well. Please, Dr. Pace.
Well, yeah, this has been a challenging issue. You know, we look to the state. We are basically aligning our general approach with what the state guidelines are. And so the state is, these bass tournaments and things like that, the state is permitting them now. And so we've talked to the state a couple times and asked the people that work with these sorts of things if it made sense to do that. And I share some of the concern here, but they continue to put the permits out. The thing is that the actual fishing on the lake in a boat is not particularly concerning. So 2 guys out in a bass boat out in the middle of the lake, we're not too worried about the transmission there. It's really back on the shore that when people are congregating. And so whenever I have any kind of conversation with the people that are running the tournaments, we talk about how to do that safely, how to be in alignment with the state guidelines, how to help people not congregating. And most of the ones that I've talked with have been very cooperative about not carrying on any of the normal activities on the shore where people would congregate and be close together. You know, they'll have the weigh-ins be just one person at a time, those kind of things. So we're trying to figure out how to do these activities moving forward in the safest way as possible by still allowing us to have some sort of life. But this is definitely a concerning area. One last thing I'll say, and then I'll hand it over to the supervisor, is we have not, when we do our case investigations, we have not traced any transmission of cases to any of the bass tournaments. It's not to say that they didn't happen there, but in our kind of the way we do the contact tracing and everything, we haven't identified that as a place where any of the cases have been transmitted. So thank you.
Appreciate you clarifying. Supervisor Sabatier, please.
And thank you so much for the question, because it's one of those strange situations where at first when we started COVID-19, we're saying nobody leave the county, nobody come into the county. And when it comes to a fishing tournament, if you've ever been to one, the vast majority are out of county folks. We have some locals that take part in the activity, but typically it's mostly out of county. From what I've seen, that there's no congregating whatsoever on the shore unless it's a group of people that were already coming together in the first place. They were already in the same car, but they're going out on their boats. They're there to fish. They're there at the crack of dawn. They're fishing all day till the mid-afternoon, coming back in. There's separation when they're doing their weigh-in, and there's no crowds to applaud them for their weigh-in, weight, and so on and so forth. What I really like is that Dr. Pace said his last statement. I've been known with all of my statements that I make, I'm all about data. And if the data shows that this is not showing any danger for us at this moment in time, then there's no need to tackle something that's not giving us a problem. We need to make sure that we have data to help guide us on where we should put our efforts, because right now we have 61 active cases. That is a lot of active cases for public health to have to deal with. So if there's no problem, then let's go ahead and keep going. We don't want to add more of those problems, and we don't want to take away something that might help our businesses, that might offer some reason for people want to come here and spend money. We don't want to take any of those things away if they're not sharing any kind of danger to our communities. And I hope that it remains that way. And I know that I've been in contact with some of the tournament leaders, and they're very mindful about following the guidelines. And I believe that they've worked hand in hand with public health to make sure that those guidelines are the appropriate ones to follow. At one point, Fish and Wildlife was not allowing permits for fishing tournaments. And it wasn't until, I want to say, around Memorial Day weekend, if not maybe a little after that, that they started going out and giving those permits. So there's been a lot of scrutiny on these fishing tournaments.
That's Supervisor Sabatier talking about his data-driven approaches when it comes to the issue of bass fishing tournaments on the lake. And we just heard from Dr. Pace, we have not looked at spread based off of those tournaments either. So we're very grateful, gentlemen, for that. We want to remind folks we have a few minutes left with our community coffee. You can hit us up right now at senator.mcguire@senate.ca.gov. Again, email us senator.mcguire@senate.ca.gov. You can put your question into chat, your comments, your criticisms into the chat function, which is right beneath us here on Zoom. And we've had 3 questions tonight. Henry, Gay, and Robert have all written in about resources devoted to fire. I'm going to talk about where we're at on the state side, then I'll turn it over to Supervisor Sabatier. And of course, understanding that Chief White is on the law enforcement side, but any items that he may want to add there, given his perspective. But look, here's where we're at in the state of California. We've had the largest, the deadliest wildland fires in this state's history in the last 10 years. We know that the size and scope of wildland fires in particular over the last 5 years have actually increased. And we are going to have the worst wildfire season on record this year. Just since August 15th, we're at about 3.7 million acres, a total of 4 million acres statewide. And just north of us, we have the first 1 million acre fire with the August complex. So here's where the state is focused. Number one, I want to diagnose on why we're here. There's 4 main drivers, we believe, working with climate scientists and fire scientists from across the nation on why we're here. Number one, climate change. Understand that some folks may not believe in it. I do. And here's what we're seeing. According to both the federal and state government, the average hot temperature in the summer and fall in California is up between about 1.5 degrees to 2.5 degrees since the early 1970s. We are seeing some of the driest conditions in our forests and our oaklands, along with our grasslands that we've seen on record. Number two, second reason why we're here, dead and dying trees and lack of vegetation management. We have about 100 to 120 dead and dying trees in the Sierra, as well as the coastal range, and we have not advanced low-lying brush removal in our public lands or our private lands. Number three, we continue to build in that wild and urban interface. We have more homes that are going deeper into the forest or the oak woodlands and areas of high fire danger. And then the fourth reason why we are here today is we're coming out of the biggest drought that we've had in 1,200 years. So it has created this perfect storm of challenge. So what are we doing about it? Number one, we've invested $85 million this year alone, $85 million permanent funding for CAL FIRE. We're hiring 179 full-time CAL FIRE firefighters. We're hiring an additional 350 seasonal firefighters that will be on 10 months of the year. And by the way, fire season is now 80 days longer, approximately. The specific number is 84, but approximately 80 days longer than we were in the early 1970s here in California. So now seasonal firefighters are being kept on for 10 out of 12 months. In addition, we hired another 100 full-time firefighters last year, 13 new fire engines, about 150 new seasonal. We just struck a deal with the United States Coast Guard. They're going to transition 7 C-130 cargo planes out of their fleet. We're going to put them into the CAL FIRE fleet. We're going to outfit them with a large retardant bladder in the belly of the plane. They will now become the largest air attack plane that we have in the CAL FIRE fleet. By the way, CAL FIRE has over 200 airplanes and helicopters in its fleet. It's the largest of any firefighting force on the planet now, and we're going to continue to expand. We're phasing out all of our Vietnam-era helicopters. We're phasing in night fighting Black Hawk helicopters. We are bringing in new bulldozer teams, but we have to become much more aggressive in prevention. And that's why we're investing $200 million every year to be able to remove dead and dying trees and vegetation management, especially focused around our communities and evacuation routes. We're streamlining CEQA, the California Environmental Quality Act, to be able to get these projects done quicker and more efficiently as well, which is absolutely critical to the success of fire prevention in this state. And we've just inked a deal with the federal government to be able to go in and remove dead and dying trees, as well as perform vegetation management, low-lying brush on 1 million acres of federal land that surrounds communities and unincorporated communities and cities throughout the state. Much more to come on that, but that's where we're really focused. What we know is the more money we spend early, the less that we're going to have to spend long-term when it comes to firefighting, but then having to rebuild from the devastation of these large mega wildland fires. Supervisor Sabatier, I'll turn it over to you. I know this has been a big priority of yours, as well as the Board of Supervisors on enhanced firefighting resources. Take it away.
I'm just going to start off with that I think we have some of the best firefighters here locally, but some of the fires that we're seeing are just beyond our capacity of being able to handle on our own. If it wasn't for mutual aid, we would be in much deeper hole than we are right now. Whenever I see a small fire in the area, I see our local firefighters doing exactly as they should, and they jump right on it. Things like the LNU, when you have 12,000 lightning strikes in one evening, it's just an impossibility for a local firefighting district to be able to handle the amount of need to be able to fight these fires. We have, as Senator McGuire just mentioned, the first gigafire in the state history. And that is right there in our backyard near Lake Pillsbury and north to our neighbors. What we are seeing is close to insanity. I'm glad that Senator McGuire mentioned the increase in days. I don't know how else to better explain that than climate change. The days do not, the days make it drier. And in between that, you have to look around. It's not just a fire phenomenon, it's a weather phenomenon where you have more typhoons, you have more hurricanes. That's why we're seeing higher winds. That's why we're seeing things like PSPS happening more and more often, because the wild winds are what are driving some of these fires once they spark. It doesn't matter how they spark. once they do, the fuel is there and the climate is there to provide for them to continue and burn as much as they can. We've been really fortunate with what we've had in the near past. The Valley Fire was our hardest one. The sulfur fire was very close to home here and did hurt, wasn't as large as the Valley Fire. But the last 2 years, I think we can knock on wood that we haven't seen those fires coming deep into our communities like they have in other places. It is all about being proactive. What the cost of being proactive absolutely is dismal in comparison to the cost of being reactive and waiting for the fire to destroy our communities, because rebuilding not only takes decades, but it also takes a lot more funds to be able to get there. As I said earlier in my summary, that is something that we will be bringing to look at the footprints of all these fires and where fire has not occurred and where we need to focus on forest management, on vegetation, hazardous vegetation management, things of the kind. I don't think it's going to disappear anytime soon. I think we need to remain vigilant for the near future, the next decade, the next 2 decades, but it is something that we need to change our behavior of what it is that we do and how we protect our own property and how we use our resources to protect the greater good.
Supervisor, thank you so much. That's Supervisor Sabatier, County Supervisor here in the beautiful County of Lake. Chief White, any items that you want to be able to focus on, especially on evacuation routes? And I know this has been a priority of yours and the department. Lessons learned when it comes to alert and warning as well. That's been a big priority of yours. Chief White.
Thank you. Just a couple of things. So as I mentioned in the opening, we have literally doubled our efforts in terms of code enforcement. So we're abating more vegetation cases than I think ever, which is key to the prevention. The second piece is that we've implemented an administrative citation program. So those violators who allow their properties to be overgrown and everything else, we're finding it as a tool to compel them without overwhelming the criminal justice system. The other part is we're working really closely with the fire department. So as you mentioned, in terms of responses, planning out for evacuations, we have pre-plans in place for various different scenarios. So when something does happen, we can pull those out and readily communicate to our community through multiple different forums. The other thing is that when fires do occur, we're responding to many of them and talking directly with the fire department and taking command with them. So that way our efforts are coordinated. So I think that that's working out really well on the response side.
Thank you so much. That's Chief White. Please, Chief, in the city of Clearlake, we're going to go to Mayor Kramer, and then we have a couple more questions. The last call for questions right now. If you want to be able to get your last question coming in, feel free to hit us up on the chat here on Zoom or email us, senator.mcguire@senate.ca.gov. This is our last call for questions. Mayor Kramer, quickly on the issue of fires.
Yes, I just wanted to reemphasize what Chief White said, our administrative citations for vegetation management. When we implemented that ordinance a year or so ago, I quite honestly questioned that the severity of it, I thought it was too tough. Now I think it needs to be tougher. The fire danger to our city from within is huge. We've had a number of fires that we've been really lucky that our fire department has been able to jump on quickly. In our own case, Chief White has talked about the Gobi Desert area. That is an area that has a lot of brush covered lots that are don't have houses on them. Some of them fall into that tax default situation where we can't do anything with them because we can't, quite frankly, find the owner. But those, and the city actually owns some lots, and we've been a lot more proactive about taking the brush out, pruning the trees up, and trying to keep those areas as clean as possible. We need to also be much more proactive with our surrounding areas. We have BLM land adjoining our city on the east. Supervisor Sabatier and I have been talking with the BLM office in Ukiah and are hoping to meet with them in a week or two to work out a program for doing some vegetation removal through control burning, mechanical means, whatever it takes out there. But there's about 2,000 acres of brush that last burned in 1967, which is virtually adjacent to the east side of Clearlake. It needs to be the dozer lines are still there from both the Rocky Fire and then the Clayton Fire a couple of years later. We need to take advantage of those and get that vegetation reduction done. The sooner the better.
Thank you so much, Mayor Kramer. Mayor Kramer, City of Clear Lake. Mayor Kramer, last question coming into you. This is coming in from Lisa. What action can we take to remedy our defaulted property tax sale situation? We're being held hostage by the inaction with significant fiscal impacts. Do you want to talk about that, Mayor Kramer?
Oh, I share your pain. That's why we finally found we just had no choice but to bring suit against the county tax collector's office, because quite frankly, she has not done her job. And that's not to say that the problem wasn't there long before she was there. Supervisor Sabache has been working very hard to try to remedy the situation, but unfortunately, he's an island in Lakeport. We need to keep pressure on the tax collector to do her job, to get the tax auctions going. Even the threat of a tax auction on a property will prompt them many times to pay their taxes. But we have to just keep the pressure on and let our supervisors know, and certainly let our tax collector know that we want this thing corrected. We want it corrected now. It's holding up our development in the city in many cases, because these properties are basically in limbo. Right now, countywide, there's like 6,542 properties that are eligible for tax sale. We try to do, I think they had 300 scheduled to begin with, Supervisor, which are down to less than 200 now. For some were pulled off and some were actually paid. These are also problems for Chief White and his code enforcement. Generally, these properties are absentee loaners. I did an appraisal a number of years ago on a couple of lots out in the Chapman tract, the avenues. The owner was, I think, the grandchildren of the original purchaser of these lots. They lived in New York, had no idea what they looked like. They were undeveloped, overgrown with brush. And this is the situation.
We're going to have to wrap up. Please just go in and finish up, and I don't mean to interrupt.
This is the situation we face on. So again, Lisa, thanks for the question. More pressure, continued pressure on both the tax collector and the Board of Supervisors to act to correct this problem.
All right, thank you so much. Supervisor, I don't want to check in if you wanted to say any items on this, and then we're going to go to another last question for Dr. Pace. But Supervisor, I know you have been working this issue and you've been incredibly proactive.
You have.
It's a tough issue, and it's a countywide issue. It's not a City of Clear Lake only issue, though the City of Clear Lake does take the brunt of the issue. I will say close to a quarter of the properties are into some sort of tax default, whether 1 year tax defaulted or all the way up to 40 years is what I found. I'm not going to talk about it all, the lawsuit, as that needs to be kept behind closed doors. But I will say that for me, the issue is we do have a teeter fund that does help pay the 1% to all of the entities, the taxing entities. But if there's been ever an increase in between when the teeter fund was created till today, then for instance, our fire districts aren't seeing that increase of funds due to property taxes not being paid. And we just stopped talking about the fire issues. And that is important money and important funds that need to be in the hands of our fire districts to be able to do the best job they can do to protect our community. So it's kind of a domino effect. And to me, that one stands tall on top of a hill.
No, thank you so much. We're grateful. Thank you, Supervisor Sabate. All right. Final question of the night, ladies and gentlemen. Then we're going to go to 30-second closing comments, starting with the chief. Then we're going to go to the doctor. Then we're going to go to the supervisor and to the mayor. Last question coming in for Dr. Pace. Dr. Pace, you mentioned this in the beginning, but Zachary is spot on. What is Dr. Pace's prediction for the winter months in the coronavirus? Are we going to hold steady, or are we going to go backwards? Dr. Pace.
Well, yeah, I kind of alluded to it a little bit. We've done really well, and we've been pretty much stable through the last several months. And the concern is with two things. One is with the flu season coming on, and the other is that people will be more and more inside and more in closed areas, and the transmission is higher there. Both of those increase the risk for the winter months. And during the winter, oftentimes the hospitals get pretty full, and there's a capacity issue anyhow because of flu and just the other illnesses that go around. And one of our big concerns is if the hospitals get too crowded, get too packed up, that will can kind of overwhelm our local capacity to deal with things. So I'm concerned about the next probably 4 or 5 months that things are going to be a lot tougher. And I really, really encourage people to take the precautions and to really take the extra precautions during the coming months. If you have elders or more vulnerable folks in the household, to really protect them by being extra special careful. And when you go out, washing your hands and maybe wearing a mask when you're around your grandmother who's in the house and things like that to help protect them. Avoid group activities, big social activities with people from a lot of families. That's really where we're seeing a lot of the spread occurring, and really wearing masks when you're out in public makes a big difference. I think those kind of things will help us keep the levels to where we are now. I think if people get careless and frustrated and kind of just tired of the whole thing, then we may see some backsliding.
All right. So the most important, I think, lesson that we need to learn is while we have incredible fatigue, and people rightfully so have fatigue after 6-7 damn months of the virus, we got to stay strong through the winter months, because we got flu season coming up. That's the busiest season for hospitals already. We can't have another layer. Really good advice to be able to stay strong as we move forward. All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Pace. We're going to go to closing comments. We are so appreciative that you've been sticking with us here tonight and joining us for this community coffee. We're going to go to Chief White, 30-second closing comment, and then to Dr. Pace. Chief White.
Sure. I just wanted to thank the community for their continued support. It's an exciting time in Clearlake, despite everything else going on. We are becoming a cleaner and safer city. I want to thank you, Senator McGuire, and your staff for always being available to us and addressing our needs, and look forward to doing this again in the future. Thank you.
Chief White, you've been amazing. I just want to say thank you for your fantastic work, not just in the city of Clearlake, but throughout the state. And you as a top law enforcement officer, we are so grateful for your dedication, sir. It's always good to see you. Let's go to Dr. Pace. Closing comments, please.
Well, thank you, Senator McGuire. It's always exciting to get up and do these things with you. You're so dynamic and get everything going. And I really appreciate being on the panel here with everybody. You know, it's hard. This is a hard phase of our collective life, and we're kind of all in this together. And the more we can just kind of buckle down for the next couple months, I think it's going to really pay off, because I think next spring, I really think the light is at the end of the tunnel. So we just have to kind of buckle down and really work with the masks, work with taking care of the vulnerable folks and avoiding these kind of situations where you can get in trouble. And I think if we can do that for the next couple of months, we're going to be really doing a lot better come springtime. And I think we can pull this off. So I really encourage people to keep going. So thanks.
Dr. Pace, thank you so much. Public Health Officer, County of Lake. We're going to turn it over to Supervisor Sabatier. Then we're going to turn it over to Mr. Kramer, Mayor of Clearlake, for closing comments. Mr. Supervisor, thanks so much for your time today and your leadership.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Senator, for putting this together, the public for being here and asking questions, being inquisitive of what is happening here in our county and our communities. I want to first off say it's been a pleasure to work and serve for Lake County. It's been my favorite thing I've ever done in my life. I am here to work for you. My phone number is 695-0834. If you ever need anything, any help, any better understanding of why things are happening, I am here for you. My email address is bruno.sabatier@lakecountyca.gov. Again, I'm always willing to have a conversation, whether you disagree with me or agree with me. I need to hear it all, because I'm not working for those who voted me. I'm working for everyone that lives here in Lake County, including District 2. I'm going to ask everybody based on something that Dr. Pace said, and I think it's personal responsibility. Whether it's fire suppression on your own property, keeping your own yard clean, or making sure that we all wear a mask and keep ourselves safe during the winter season as we deal with COVID-19. It's all about personal responsibility. And the more we choose to take that on ourselves, the better off we're all going to be when we come out of this in spring and have a wonderful summer. So thank you again for putting this together. Looking forward to doing this again.
Well said, Supervisor. Thank you very much. Very grateful. We're now going to turn it over to Mayor Kramer. Again, Mayor, thank you to the City of Clearlake, the City Council for the partnership tonight. The floor is yours for closing comment.
Thank you, Senator McGuire. And again, thank you, as we all have. Appreciate your putting this on, putting it together. It's a great opportunity to get our voices out to more people. I know our city council meetings are now all by Zoom, and we're getting feedback that I'd really like to look us in the eye, and I honestly would like to look them in the eye. So this does give me another opportunity to at least talk with them. We do have some exciting things happening in Clearlake. Our Austin's Park is, we wish it would have been open to be able to use our bandstand, but our state-of-the-art playground equipment, which was donated by Adventist Hospital, is in place, being used a lot. The dog park is in great use, so I'm really excited to see that coming into fruition. Hopefully we'll have the final little, we always have those little punch list of things to complete, but really, really happy about where it's at now. The comments with regard to the wildfire situation and the resilience, I think, is really important. Obviously the road deal, I guess I was right to have that as first on my agenda. And Lori, I want to let you know that I definitely will get back to you on Palmer and Pearl. And I think your idea about working with our newsletter or website, we are looking at that, and we'll be working on that going forward as well. So again, thanks for everyone for letting me come into your living room, so to speak. And again, thank you, Senator McGuire. I look forward to our next Zoom meeting next month. And I did want to say the Hope Center, just so we know, we didn't talk about that, but the state did give us $3.3 million to complete it, and it will be in operation within the next month or two, I'm told. So again, thank you.
Mayor Kramer, thank you so much. You're right, 3.3 million coming in. It is, it's going to be fantastic. We're going to have 15 additional. We'll be able to finish off those 15 rooms. We're going to be able to look at it, enhanced substance abuse counseling, mental health counseling, and it's a great shot in the arm, let's be honest, when it comes to the city of Clearlake and tackling some of our toughest challenges. And it would not have happened without the mayor, the city council, and of course the supervisor, and we are so appreciative of the partnership. Hey, just a couple of last comments that have come in. Thank you so much, Melanie. Melanie says, thank you to all the panelists and for allowing the voices of the community to speak and to be heard. Melanie says she sincerely appreciates all the efforts to improve Clearlake in our county. And thanks to all the community members who joined us tonight. Last comment from Vicky. Vicky says, thank you all for the first time in years. I feel inspired of everything. We are on a positive road for Clearlake. So thank you so much. Very nice comment from Vicky as well. Vicky, thank you for joining us. Here's the bottom line that I want to be able to leave with tonight. Despite all the chaos of what's going on nationally, we are making progress here locally. And it's because we're working closer together than ever before. You heard what happened with the Hope Center. We know that we've been working with the supervisor, the mayor, the entire city council, and housing, and we're hoping to be able to have some announcements in the months to come. We're working on launching a campaign and an initiative that will be focused on graduation rates and maternal bonding campaign, working with our healthcare entities here in Lake County. I will tell you the best is yet to come, and we are so appreciative that you joined us tonight. I want to say a few thank yous. Thank you to our panelists. We owe you a debt of gratitude for being with us tonight. I want to say thank you to Dana. I want to say thank you to Taylor, to Carrie, and to Jason Lyles. for all their work to help put together tonight. We could not have done it without them. If you ever need to get a hold of us, feel free to hit us up on email anytime, senator.mcguire@senate.ca.gov. Thank you for allowing me to be able to work with you representing Lake County. It is the best job that you could ever ask for, and we look forward to working with you here in the months and years to come. Have a great night, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Until next time, stay strong and follow what Dr. Pace said. Wear the damn mask. We got to get through this next 4 to 5 months. And Dr. Pace, you said wear the damn mask. Am I right? All right, he did. He said another word, but we're not going to repeat it here tonight. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great night. Thank you so much for joining us.
Night.